Hi guys, Adam here as per usual. Thanks for checking out the videos. Today we're going to talk about why your tone sucks in a live or in a band situation. Two things: too much gain and the wrong EQ. Alright guys, so let's address the issue of why your tone sounds great at home, either at bedroom level or cranked up or whatever. Sometimes sounds good in rehearsal, but why it just sucks live. We've all had those gigs where we turn up really excited about new pedals, new rig or whatever, new guitar, plug in and it just sounds absolute garbage. You just can't hear anything. You're drowned out by the rest of the band. Why is that? Firstly is gain. A lot of people live, and I've been guilty of this in the past as well, and it's a really hard habit to get out of. You kind of crank the gain a bit. You use too much gain live because it's comfortable. It makes things easier to play. It hides a couple of those mistakes, covers up a bit of poor technique, that kind of thing. But what you're doing when you're increasing the gain is massively compressing the signal and reducing the overall dynamic range of the signal. And it just makes the instrument a lot more kind of background. That's why a clean guitar, if you look when you record and you record a clean guitar, it's nice and spiky. There's a lot of dynamic range in there, very varied. If you put on a pedal or something, crank the gain, that spiky signal suddenly gets crushed a lot, and it's very, very kind of square and very compressed, and that sound kind of sits back a little bit because it's not as dynamic. Our ear doesn't pick up on it as well. So turn down the gain even just a touch, and you'll find you'll just open up that tone a lot more, and it'll be a lot less compressy, a lot less gainy, and it'll just be opened up a lot more, and immediately you'll be sort of brought forward a little bit in the mix. By far the most important thing though is EQ. You know, when we're sitting at home and we're the only instrument playing, or maybe we've got a backing track on, kind of EQ to the sound of the room. And that normally involves, you start with your knobs at noon and then tweak from there. And invariably you end up with a lot of bass, probably cut the mids a little, treble. Who cares about the treble? It really varies. No, I'm just kidding. Treble kind of to taste. Nobody's kind of the same with treble. But what you probably find when you're practicing in your room is you use a lot more low end because you really want to sort of feel that. You want that trouser flapping low end, But when you get in a band situation, it just doesn't work. Low frequencies kind of sit back a bit in the mix, especially if they're distorted and compressed, whereas treble frequencies really stand out on top. And the problem with the guitar as well is it's not really a low end instrument. And so when you're cranking up the low end, you're trying to compete with the bass guitar, which is naturally a bassy, a low end instrument. The guitar's kind of important or presence frequencies, should I say, it really sit in the mid-range of most EQs on an amp. So really the mid-range is what's going to bring you presence. I like a lot of mid-range in my tone. It is, yeah, pretty much cranked, probably on 8 or 9 out of 10, and it's a pretty mid-rangey amp anyway. I have that on 8 or 9 out of 10, and it's a really kind of in your face, look, this is a guitar, I am here to be heard kind of tone. The bass on my amp is rolled off pretty much. It's normally on about 1 out of 10 on the kind of main rhythm tone. I know in a band situation and in a recording situation, I don't want all that low end. I need to leave that room for the bass guitar so that the bass guitar can clearly be heard. If you've got loads of low end on your guitar amp, not only will you kind of lose that presence and lose that clarity in your tone, but the bass guitar is going to have to turn up their low end to compete, and it just ends up in a big kind of mushy mess. So do everyone in the band a favour and think about EQ. You want to leave all this low end down here for the bass and the kick drum. So right in your kind of low frequencies, turn your bass down on your amp. That's going to increase your kind of mid-range and treble presence anyway, and it's going to get rid of loads of that mushy, fuzzy crap that happens when you're running a high gain amp anyway and the bass is cranked. It's terrible. That's going to leave all the room for the bass and the kick so that you can then sit firmly kind of in the mid-range with a little bit of the kind of top end in there as well. The vocalist can sit also in the mid-range. It's not going to get too crowded. And then if you've got a keyboard player like we have, they can focus on, they get the luxury of the kind of full frequencies, if you like, but they can kind of sit on the upper mids and the treble range. And then you've got the drum kit filling all that out. You've got the kick drum right down low, snare and low toms a bit higher, your high toms and your hats and your cymbals right at the very top of the frequency spectrum. So think about it. The reason your tone sucks is not because the latest overdrive you bought is actually crap for a live situation. It's not because your £700 delay pedal suddenly magically sucks. It only sounds good in the studio. All that's absolute nonsense. Think about the basics. Think about, am I using too much gain? And what is my EQ like? Focus on the mid-range for guitars, folks. Don't scoop it all out, it sounds like garbage. Why not post below your kind of favourite amp settings, your sort of effects change in your gear that you're using, and how wildly your kind of settings vary from home use to live use. I've now started setting up my gear as if I'm permanently kind of in a studio, which I sort of am, studio or live situation, so I'm getting used to not hearing that low end when I go into band practice. And as ever guys, thanks so much for watching, thank you for the continued support, take it easy.